Hello, everyone, and welcome back to episode 3 of The Holistic Agent. Super excited today for our guest that we have with us. And also, I finally have my co-host back who will be joining us for the remainder of most of the episodes here. And that is Nathan Smith over there at the end. Say hello, Nathan.
Hey, guys.
So Nathan is an agent here at KW Key as well with me. And our guest today is the one and only Ashley Melvin, who is with the E.D. Waters Network, one of the bigger teams here, more successful teams here in the city. They do a lot of production and do very well for themselves. Where are you officed out of?
Okay, so we have several offices. We have an Overland Park office. We have an Lee Summit.
So they just expanded, I think, a little bit to like Joplin or something?
No, so we're in Colorado.
Colorado, okay, that's
Yeah,
right.
so we've
My
got a couple
lender
of
was telling me
agents in
that.
Colorado. So that's part of our expansion. We did like the Kansas City, Missouri side. We've done some Kansas sides, and so now we're kind of expanding that way. So
Excellent, very
big
cool.
things, yes.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what got you into real estate.
So I was a bartender for several years.
Yeah.
I decided to do something different. I went into property management. I kind of worked for a high-end apartment complex, and I was having fun showing people nice houses or nice apartments anyways. And I was like, I think I could get into real estate. And so I did my licensing and figured out that I really like doing it. So
Gotcha.
been with it for about 3.5
I
years.
was about to ask you that. Okay.
Yeah.
Love it?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, good.
I love that it's flexible, but it's also different. It's something different every single day.
Oh, yeah.
I hate monotony, so
Yeah.
it always keeps you on your toes.
Most definitely, yeah. Not 8 to 5. You're not just going through the motions. We have to be on our toes constantly.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely like that aspect. What do you think?
Absolutely. And you guys have an expansion team in our office as well.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
my license is up here. So.
are they hiring for the Colorado one? I'll move on.
Right. Yeah. Every time they go out there, I'm like, I'll volunteer.
I'll go with you.
Yes. It's
Seriously.
beautiful out there.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, so I like to preface the episode real quick just so you guys know what the episode is going to be about. So we're going to talk a little bit about Ashley's story. It's absolutely incredible and fascinating. One of just resilience and some pain that she had to fight through, and I got chills when we were talking on the Zoom call, just listening to you talk. So I'm really excited to talk about that. We're going to talk about therapy and its impact, also psychiatric treatments, as well as how to properly read someone who's actively experiencing depression and anxiety, and then how to comfort them as well. Also, healthy coping mechanisms for handling stress. So that's kind of what we're going to be touching on in this episode today. So let's jump into your story real quick.
Okay, so I got pregnant when I was 18. I was with the guy for about 2 months, and so I wasn't prepared for that, obviously. We tried to make it work. We got married. There were some issues there, substance abuse, alcohol, and that's his story. And it didn't work out. And so I got out of that relationship, and my son became my full focus. I was a single mom, and that was my thing. I didn't drink or do drugs or anything in high school. I had straight A's. I didn't do sports. I didn't know what I was going to be when I grew up. So in a weird way, I felt like being a teen mom was my identifier.
Yeah.
And I hated it at first, and I was ashamed of it. And I know my parents were not happy about it. But I really just took it on and said, okay, then this is my purpose. This is what I'm supposed to do.
That's amazing.
And so I love my kid. He is 14 now. We have a very good relationship. We're very close, which is nice because he's a teenage boy. So they're not always close with their moms.
Yeah, they start going this way, I heard.
Yeah. I'm not getting that much attitude yet. I called him a mama's boy the other day, and he was like, how so? He is.
That's funny.
When I was going through my divorce, my best friend passed away. She had a brain aneurysm. And so it was just a really bad everything happening at once. I was 20 years old. I was getting divorced. I just lost my best friend, one of my few friends, because when you're a mom at 20, you don't have a lot of friends that stick around. So it was really, really hard for me. And I thought I was struggling like normal people. Like, well, everybody struggles with anxiety and depression, and people make jokes about it. And I didn't realize I had mental health issues. I went to the doctor and was like, listen, I really can't sleep. I'm really upset all the time, or very, very anxious. And she's like, have you talked to a therapist? And I was like, no, what would I talk to a therapist about? Like, for me, in growing up, my parents never touched on or encouraged or discussed mental health or therapy. And so I was like, what is that? Why would I go talk to somebody? That's what friends are for.
Right.
And I went and talked to somebody, and one distinction that's important to make is when you go to a therapist, those are generally people that you talk to about your issues. Now, a psychiatrist is somebody that will recommend medication for you. So it just depends on your situation, what you prefer. I thought I could do like a one-stop shop where they could just talk to me and then prescribe meds, and I thought that would be my treatment plan. But it turns out, just like my life, my treatment plan is not my choice. It's something you have to work through. It's something you have to figure out, and it's something that you have to really work through, because it doesn't work the first time for everybody.
Right. I feel like I'm still figuring it out.
Right. It's like the first therapist I talked to, it didn't work. The first meds I took, they didn't work. And it's trial and error, very trial and error.
Definitely. And that journey alone too can be frustrating. I mean, it can be daunting. For sure.
And that's a great point that she brought up about, because I too have gone to one person and said, oh, okay, therapy doesn't work. That's not always the case. It's sometimes a therapist or the connection between the two doesn't work. So I have a great person now, but it took me 5 or 6 people to find him. So
yeah, it's almost like real estate really, with just different clients fit best with different agents, and I think the therapists are the same way. I mean, you have to kind of dabble a little bit and try a few to see what sticks and see who you're comfortable with, because the important thing is obviously unpacking your trauma and whatever you're dealing with, and being comfortable doing that. And if you can't do that in front of somebody, then why are you there? So you got to keep searching, and you have to be resilient in order to find that right person.
I think the first couple of times I went, I was like, okay, we're going to talk, and when I leave, I'm going to feel better. And when we'd go and talk, and I'd be crying, and I'd leave, and I'm like, this doesn't feel better. This feels worse. But it's a matter of I would find myself days later being hearing what my therapist had said to me. Is that the decision you want to be making? Are you sure you want to go that way? Let's look at the bigger picture. And I was saying things to myself that she was saying, and I was like, that's how they get you. It's just retraining your brain, to think differently, to not be thinking, impulsively or your first instinct. It's let me think it through. Let me look at it in a different way. And I think that's why it's been most beneficial for me.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, and I would say when you were talking earlier that, everyone out there who experiences trauma like you did, like losing a best friend or losing a parent, or, even smaller traumas, that you have to unpack that, and you can't unpack it. I mean, you can unpack it with your friends and your family. However, if you have someone that you can do that with, that's great, and that's really healthy. However, they're not licensed professionals, and they don't properly know how to guide you through that. And so it's important to, when you do experience those things, that to really reach out to therapists and go in for some sessions and really unpack it.
Yeah, it's different when it's a third party too. So somebody who doesn't know the people that you're talking about.
Yes.
Because it's so easy when you're talking to people in your family and you're having an issue with a family member and they're like, well, they're just that way. And I'm like, but that shouldn't be okay. What's happening is not working. It's toxic. And I need someone else to go, actually, do you recognize that that's toxic?
Yeah.
And I'll have to be like, it is. And then I go back to them and I'm like, why do you guys not know this is toxic?
Right. Yeah, that outside perspective is so crucial, I think.
Yeah.
So you were really thrown into adulthood at an early age, essentially. I mean, these events that happened, they caused you to basically prioritize immediately. And it sounds like did a great job of doing that. You figured out, that where your priorities lie, with your son, and just really trying to move forward from that and the best way possible, and creating the best life for him possible, right?
Mm-hmm.
I can't imagine being 18 and doing that. I mean, I was so immature at 18. I was immature at 21. I mean,
Yeah.
so so that's crazy. We touched a little bit already on therapy. Let's jump to psychiatry treatments, and just your journey with them. You talked a little bit about it.
Yeah, so there's a big stigma against taking medication.
Mm-hmm.
Someone saying, well, you're getting dependent on them, or what about the long-term effects, or you need meds to function. Like, it's so hurtful when people say, oh, you're being crazy, or are you off your meds?
Oh yeah.
You just have to speak to people so gently. Like, and my husband's so good at it now. He'll just be like, all right, do you want to talk about this now? Does this seem like a good time? Or he'll be like, can I just hold you for a minute? Like, he just knows how to speak to me, because there have been so many people in my life previously that like use that to attack me. And whether they do it on purpose or not, it's like, it really does like get to you after a period of time,
Yeah.
So I tried different medications. I was diagnosed with anxiety and depression about 10 years ago. And I tried stuff for just anxiety. I tried stuff just for depression, a combination of things. And then when you get a combination, then you're like, okay, which one's not working? Okay, well, now it's this one. Well, these two, the way they're interacting is not working.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say to anybody who's trying to do medication for the first time to just really stick it out. If it's a week or two and you're still feeling sick, or you're feeling worse about anxiousness or depression, like, stick with it, because your body needs time to get used to it. And it really is like a psychological thing. It's in your head. It's also scientific. You got to just retrain the way that you've been thinking. And so telling your body different things is kind of tricky, but
For sure. And I mean, that goes to the topic of mindfulness and knowing your body and knowing what it is experiencing too, and just being mindful of that. And I mean, like you said, being resilient through it, and sticking it out, because it takes time for your body to adjust in order for that, whatever medication it is, to start properly working and doing its job that it's intended to do.
And it's really important to be like open with yourself and honest and truthful about what you're experiencing. If you don't feel comfortable telling a family member or your partner, like, this is what I'm going through, like, just document it.
Mm-hmm.
I hate journaling, writing a diary. It's just, I'm not consistent about it, and it feels silly to write my own thoughts down that I'm going to read. But it really does help me track what is working, what is not working, and it's most important to be honest with yourself.
Definitely.
I have this vulnerability, and that's okay.
Yeah,
I can't change it. Now it's, how am I going to handle it? How am I going to cope?
for sure.
Stigma-wise, I feel you on that. I use diabetes a lot because mental illness is a disease much like diabetes is. So we take medications to balance things that are unbalanced in our body. And so, there's that stigma of someone's in the news and they do something bad with a gun. They don't say, well, he has raging diabetes. Maybe he was off his insulin. It's always some, mental imbalance. And so that's why the stigma exists. But anyone that tells me they're on medication for any sort of mental health thing, I high five that, because here you are, you've recognized within yourself what's going on, you're seeing someone, you're taking corrective action. And I think that's one of the most honorable things that you can do for yourself, So,
Definitely.
I poo-poo that away, because if you see someone lying on the ground suffering from a diabetic episode, you don't say, are you off your insulin today? No, it's just they need meds, and, we do too. So,
Yeah, and I've tried to do it without medication. I can do it. I just hate it.
Yeah.
It's a lot more work.
Yeah.
So why?
Yeah.
Because I tried for a long time to not be medicated. I didn't want to be one of those people. Because I have high functioning anxiety. So a lot of people don't know that I deal with it. I'm not walking around like, oh, this makes me nervous. I don't like this. Like, a lot of people don't know. I compartmentalize.
Yep.
So it's really easy to fall to that.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm the same way with the high functioning anxiety and just nervousness, and I hide it very well. Nobody would know that I'm experiencing it, and like you said, it's not something that you vocalize in the moment. Like, hey, can we take a break for a second? Because I'm like really, really nervous right now.
You
Like,
can't, because
yeah.
then something normal happens when you're having like a fine day, and then they'll be like, "Are you okay? Should we just take a minute?" I'm like, "I'm not a child. Like,
Right.
I'll let you know when I'm about
I'll
to
tell
snap.
you.
I'll walk away.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to see it. I don't want to do it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll tell you when I'm ready for that.
Yeah.
And that's an important thing to talk about and address, I think, actually, is how to properly do that, and making sure that the people that you surround yourself with, or your clients, that you have that set up, and it's inviting, or it's something, but it's something that you control, right? It's not something that they control, because they can't feel what you're feeling,
Right.
and experience what you're experiencing in that moment. So it's something that you have to control, and they have to respect that.
I would say
understand it.
boundaries. Boundaries
Yeah.
are so important. Especially in this market, if I have people blowing me up saying, "I got to see a home now, I got to see a home now," and they want to see 5 houses, I'm like, that stresses me out. Hold on. Instead of being like, do it behind the scenes. I have to like compose myself and be like, "Hey, I'm unavailable this time." Even if I'm not unavailable with other clients, I need to be mentally available. I need to be physically available. Like, I want to be there for you. So for me, being there for my clients sometimes means I need to take a step back and leave time for that in my schedule.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so easy to just succumb to all of the noise, and like you said, the multiple, especially in this market right now. I mean, we're all buyer heavy for the most part, and so we're running around showing houses like crazy, and everybody is. I mean, there's a huge need. I mean, some of these people have to be in a house by a certain time, and so it's very hard to, when you have a busy day and you're already showing a bunch of houses, and then you get that text message saying, "Hey, we want to go see these 4 today." And your immediate thought is, "Oh, I might be able to squeeze that in, actually, because I finished with them at 6. I'll have shown 5 already. I can squeeze you guys in, and we could probably get done by 9:30, and then I'll be completely exhausted and drained and probably non-productive the next day." So taking a step back and saying, let's look at tomorrow. What does tomorrow look like? And having that boundary.
Yeah, because you have to be strong in this market, like for them, like emotionally, like set your stresses about getting the offer aside, because they're feeling hopeless too. They've been looking for months and they're not getting anything. So just like you feel tired, you have to remember they feel tired, and you can't come to the table like, "Well, we're probably just not going to get this one, but let's go look." Like, you can't. You are their guide. You are supposed to lead them. And so for you to have to go in every day and be like, "You know what? This is what we need to do to get it. Let's finagle some things. Let's see what we can work through. Here's how we can leverage our situation." It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
And we're Sunday to Saturday. We're not Monday through Friday, 9 to 5.
Right.
Everybody has a different work schedule, so I find myself sometimes working all the time.
Yep.
So you definitely have to carve out family time, you time.
Yeah, I'm starting to mix in some just a day in the week that I can take off, and I'm trying to get more consistent with it and making it like a Wednesday or something like that. But that's been challenging, just because you get busy and you have things that you can do or that you have to do and get done to meet deadlines and whatnot. And it's so hard to really take that break. I mean, and even when I do take that day off, I find myself, I mean, yeah. So it's so hard to just shut off, reset completely, take that day off, and then get back into it,
Yeah, I find it's worth it to me to leverage my time and my money if I can pay another agent to go show. So what is it worth to you to have a night where you can make dinner, sit at home with your family the whole evening? And I finally gotten to a point in my real estate career where I feel comfortable letting go of control, letting somebody else show, and going, it's worth it to me to spend X amount of dollars on that because of my sanity. I've got to have that time in that space.
For sure.
Yeah.
I didn't learn that till just recently. I finally started doing that myself. Do you do that? You do? Yeah.
Yeah, it's a life changer.
Yeah. Which is, and that's a great reason to be in a bigger office too, is to be able to have that flexibility. I mean, can you imagine those lone wolves out there that like are literally lone wolf,
Right.
And they've got their own company and it's them and maybe an admin, but they're doing everything.
Right.
I mean, I can't imagine not having people to fall back on, to help me out here and there when I need it, when I need a break, a mental break.
Yeah, I used to think that my clients would be like upset if somebody else showed them. like, well, they're gonna judge me or think, well, why is she not here? But they're actually really understanding. 'Cause at the end of the day, they just want to be taken care of.
Yeah.
I don't think they care that it's someone else. They're going, my agent went out of her way to find someone to show us because tonight she couldn't.
Yeah.
And they have respect for that.
Yeah, I think I found too that most people, for the most part, people are, I mean, they're extremely understanding when you tell them, look, I've been running around like crazy this week. I need some time. I've got dinner plans with my family scheduled. This was my plan, and so it's going to be so much better off for all of us if someone else shows you this home. Is that okay with you? Mm-hmm. And usually they're extremely receptive, and they're even above and beyond. Oh yeah, take the night, please. If you approach it in that way, and you're transparent with them. I believe that for the most part, people are good, that they're inherently good. And so, if you approach it in the proper way, then like I said, it's well received.
If I tell people I'm busy and then for whatever personal reason, and then I respond to an email or a text, they're like, stop, you said you were busy, you're doing X,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, all right. Accountability.
Yeah, thanks for calling me out.
Right, because you got to stick to it.
Yeah, for sure, definitely.
I think it's important to get your family on board too. Mm-hmm. So having your family understand what you go through and what your schedule looks like. Yeah, my son, like I said, is 14. A couple of years ago when I first started this, I was, on my laptop a lot. I'm on Facebook, and I'm not even a big Facebook person, but for social media purposes and my business, I am more than usual lead generating, things like that. And he would be like, Mom, you're always on your stuff. Can we hang out? Can we talk? And I was like, what's something tangible? What's something I can put in front of you to say, this is why I'm always on my phone. This is why I work so hard. Mm-hmm. This is why I have to run out the door after dinner sometimes. And of course it was an iPhone, so that was kind of annoying, but he got it, and he, I think, understood, like, all right, this is because she's working. She's not avoiding me. She's not just on social media. This is what she does to make a living.
Yeah, we talked a little bit actually on, I forget which episode it was, but about being present and how hard that is to be in this industry. If you're an agent, to be present with your family and to be present with your friends when you're with them, it's tough. Mm-hmm. I mean, because we're tied to these cell phones. And I mean, we have to be. That's our job. Mm-hmm. But being mindful and cognizant of, when you have that time, setting it aside and time blocking it and making sure you're present when you're with people. Mm-hmm. And so that you can actually have that experience, because we need it. We need that human interaction. And we have, obviously, I mean, it's so much healthier for our families when we are present and we're able to be. Mm-hmm. So it's just, it's a constant struggle and battle, I think, within the industry. Yeah. So you guys were interestingly involved in a deal together that was...
It sounds sketchy.
From what I hear, in a
Yes.
transaction of sorts, that was a tough one, a really tough one, it sounds like. And I don't know the details. I love how raw we make this for that reason. So take it away. Tell me a little bit about what happened and kind of just how you guys managed it, how you dealt with it.
How we still like each other.
Yeah, how you're still, you're sitting next to each other.
So I joked with Josiah about you coming on. I said, oh my gosh, she hates me. I can't show up that day, jokingly. But long story short, I had a client who was facing bankruptcy and had just a short bit of time to sell his home, and it was in shambles. It was torn apart, and he wanted to list it, so we listed it. And then Ashley, I think at the time, was leveraging her showing agent, and so that showing agent brought her buyer over. My seller was there working, and they exchanged numbers and became little buddies right off the bat, which
don't ever let that happen.
Which that was difficult. There were deals going on behind the scenes. Ashley and I were trying to pick up all the pieces, and she maybe had 50% of the story. I maybe had 50% of the story, but even then they didn't really match up.
Well, he's saying this, and we're like, well, this is what we signed to on paper, so that's what we're going with.
And so it was really difficult, and we were talking before, it was just, I was at the point where, I was like, I don't even know if this real estate thing is the right thing for me, because it was causing me so much anxiety. And Ashley would call, and I would start to sweat a little bit, because I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on now? And it was a total nightmare. But I knew that Ashley, even though she was the face of the other side, that it wasn't Ashley. It was, we had some clients that just we let get out of control.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we're, friends today. But I think, and we talked about this too, that still I think is my worst transaction I've ever been through, and I think it's the same for Ashley. But somehow we were able to come through on the other side and just realize that, hey, this happens. It matched up this way, where we both had two kind of off the wall clients and whatever. But it ate me up during that whole transaction. I'm sure it did with you as well. But what is your what's your take on that?
It was something that was every day something new for a long period of time. So we pushed closing out several weeks. We kept having to push out. It was a daily thing that we were like, all right, who is doing something now? And I think what was important in us getting through it was we are the representatives. So I'm not causing trouble. You're not causing trouble. It's all of these outside influences that now we have to manage. And for me, not being able to control so much was really hard.
Yeah.
Because I'm used to, we're the leaders and we kind of control the transaction and our client comes with us. Whereas this one, it was like they had done all of these things on the side that it's like, well, now we're just constantly cleaning up messes. So yeah, there were several times where I was like, this sucks, I don't know how we're gonna get through it. But at the end of the day, we had a contract, we all saw the same goal. We all wanted to get it closed. And of course, we just wanted to be done with it by then. But I think it was a lot of you and I reassuring each other throughout, hey, this isn't you, this isn't me, I'm just relaying, I'm so sorry. And I would be like, I know this isn't you. This is because of the things that were happening. And you got to take the ego out of it. I'm sorry. There are so many agents that are so rude and so short. And so I'm much more experienced than you. Just humble yourself. We're both in it together. This is our job. We both want to be successful at it. So if you're tearing each other apart or calling each other names, it doesn't do you any good. And we haven't had any deals together since, but I always knew if we did that we'd be fine because how we got through it together, and it has been the worst.
If we can get through that, we can get through anything.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's how it should be. We should all be working together. There's no reason that it needs to be as volatile as I know it's gotten before with other agents.
Yeah.
So a couple takeaways there. First of all, it is impossible to properly do our job and to represent our clients if they're representing themselves. So, I think that that's taught and most agents know that, but you really have to make a conscious effort to protect that in order to protect them, to protect the deal, and in order to ensure that the deal is smooth. Because when that happens and that contact is made, you're right. It's just we're left out of whatever conversations being had.
How can we undo this? How do we get control back?
And I feel like most people think, not most people, but a lot of people do. They have that thought that I'm a nice person, why can't I talk to the seller? Why can't I meet them? Or I feel like that would go over really well, if they met who we were, you're great. I love you guys. However, this is why that shouldn't happen. And we need to ensure that that doesn't happen.
Well, and then too, as much as I hated that transaction, I am so grateful that I had that experience with me because, Ashley and I are about the same. I think August is going to be 4 years for me. You're approaching that 4-year mark. For me, I think I'll call it a rookie mistake, but I'm glad it happened because now I know exactly what to avoid. And it feels like as agents, we have to feel these pains or these mistakes in order to better ourselves.
For sure.
So there are clearly things that I learned in that transaction that, I will do or will not do. And so I'm grateful for that experience. And I'm grateful that it turned out the way it did, and Ashley and I, still have a relationship. But yeah, I'm grateful for that horrible experience.
Yeah, and that's the mindset that you have to have, and that's, kind of part of the reason we're doing this is I mean, my hope here is that a lot of newer agents are going to catch on to this, and they're going to watch these episodes, and they're going to learn from these mistakes so that they don't have to go through it. I mean, they're going to go through their own mistakes. You're going to. That's a given. If you don't expect that, then boy, are you in for a surprise. But when you do go through it, being able to manage it properly and move forward properly and learn from it, like you said, I mean, that's so important.
I'm a part of a couple of real estate groups, just like Nationwide or whatever, masterminding on Facebook, and it gets so ugly so quickly. It's like somebody will be like, "Hey, what would you do in this situation?" Just looking for advice, and all of the comments are like, "Are you new? Is this a serious question?" I'm like, why are we doing that? There's plenty of business out there for everybody. There's no reason that we need to attack each other. You were there once too.
Right.
And even if you've been doing this a long time, things change in the business. So if you're experiencing a situation that's unique, you should be able to ask for help. So I would say that for new agents, find a mentor, find somebody in your market center, somebody that can hold you accountable, but also like be there for you to answer the questions that other people, would judge you for asking.
Right.
It's the only way you learn.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, because you do that. We run into so many things where you may have a question that you feel is pretty rudimentary or just basic, and so you almost feel bad or ashamed to ask it. So yeah, you're right. I mean, it's so important to have that person that understands and that is okay with, that tells you there's no stupid question ever. Ask me anything, because they understand that causes you stress. When you get into that thought process and it starts to hold you back from even asking that simple question, but that maybe, hold the deal together, or the health of the deal may be much better if you get it answered,
Well, it's a lot cheaper to ask a stupid question than later on when you're cleaning up a mess.
Exactly.
Because I've done that too. I've had to pay for some things post-closing for my clients because I didn't ask for clarification from the listing agent, or I didn't ask someone else's opinion on how I could have handled it differently. Just humble yourself, just ask for help. And I would say that with mental health also. Like, it's okay to be vulnerable. People will still respect you for who you are, and you can still be an intelligent person when you have to ask for help or you have to ask questions.
Yeah. So, I would say that's the takeaway here definitely is, being vulnerable for sure, and just asking questions, but knowing going in that when you do ask those questions that you feel are simple, you're going to be judged by someone probably. There are those people out there. And there are a lot of stubborn agents out there that are stuck in their ways that I hope start to watch this video as well, or this podcast as well, because I think honestly it'd be great for them. But they're stubborn, so they probably won't. So I wanted to talk real quick too about something else I picked up there with the story, and that is, and I think it's really important in our marketplace right now, and that is the word empathy. In order to really, just for peace of mind and all of our mental health, I think it's so important that we have empathy for each other and that level of understanding going into everything. I was telling you about the agent that, like, I wrote an offer. I've never written an offer without talking to the listing agent first. And she had some time to get back to me, and I was following up with her, and it's kind of a dance, but I never ended up talking to her and had to submit the offer. We didn't get it, of course. But she was telling me how busy she is, and I empathized with that, and so I take that back. She did actually finally get back to me, and she was texting me. Come to find out, she didn't really talk to any of the other agents, so I did have that leg up a little bit because I was empathetic, because I said, I get it, I am too. It is absolutely crazy right now, and then what can I do? How can I make this easier? Or, just throwing that out there and making sure you have that team mentality, and, I'm here to help you too, right? Like,
we all have the same goal.
Yeah, exactly. And if that means, helping you out in some way, or picking up some pieces, that were left, that I can handle, and you've got to have boundaries there, because there are so many agents out there that will take advantage of that. So be careful with that. But I think it's important, like I said, to have empathy going into the deal.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
You're going to see that agent again. You're going to have to go out with them again later. Things are going to come up and you're going to wish that you treated them differently. You know, like
Yeah.
my dad always says, like, don't ask yourself, what if I acted like this? Just act like you think you should act and you won't have to say what if.
Yeah.
And I'm not perfect by any means. I'm not saying I've said some things I shouldn't have said. Absolutely. But if you just keep that in the back of your mind, like, I need to remember at the end of the day, I want to feel good about this decision. I want to feel good about this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Such.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Let's dive into the next topic here. Hang on one second. So how to properly read someone actively experiencing depression or anxiety, and more importantly, how to comfort them, or how to approach that. Let's talk about that a little bit.
I would assume just always assume everybody's going through it.
Yeah.
There are some people that don't know they're going through it. A lot of people don't realize that it's a mental health thing. And that pertains to drugs and alcohol too. I mean, a lot of people don't know they have a problem. So just be patient with people. If you see that they're withdrawing, don't encroach. Give them their space and then come back. Because it doesn't matter if I've identified what your problem is.
Right.
To me, it's if I realize I need to be compassionate or give somebody else space, then just do it like you would want someone to do for you.
Right.
I think that's important instead of going, well, are these the warning signs? Just because, and there's value in that, absolutely. I just know a lot of, like, you were talking about gun violence and, like, people just snap. And there's a lot of people, like, even serial killers, they're like, he was great. I had no idea he would never do that. You just don't know people. You know people to the extent they want you to know them.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be okay with that. And so instead of trying to say, I think this is what I'm seeing, I think it's important to always be a listening ear to somebody. I'm on the Edie Waters Network and we have a ton of agents, and it's very important to me to always go, I'm really proud of you. I see what you're doing, you're killing it. And because that makes me feel good. That's part of agent growth for them, but that's part of personal growth for me. I want to support you. I want you to be successful. I'm never going to be mad that you're doing better than I am if you are, because I want to be there too. Why can't we all get it?
I didn't learn that till later on too. I was always constantly a competition and comparing myself. We talked about that a little bit. You know, that constant comparison of why can't I do that? Why are they selling so many houses? And, I feel like I'm just as good as they are, but yeah, taking that approach I think is important.
Yeah, we have an agent on our team that's pretty successful. And I asked my mentor, I was like, what is she doing? And he's like, following the systems, being consistent, just sticking with it, not giving up, taking some of the clients maybe they don't want to, some of the listings that they wouldn't normally take, just always getting at it. And once you start to go and you just run with it, you keep on that momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like there's like a mode that you get into that I personally struggle with. I mean, I'm in and out, and it's something that I'm working on. Just going back to your word of consistency, being able to have balance when I'm in that mode, and not, because it's so easy for me to feel it and feel good and feel productive and feel like I'm killing it, but just to take a step back and think, whoa, wait a second, slow down, buddy. This is going to burn you out if you're not careful, and if you're not mindful and you're not doing self-care and things like that. So
self-care.
I think some of us that know our limitations know that there's a point in which we have to cut off and do this self-healing. So when you talk about systems and consistency, I'm sure this gal is 9 to 11. She's doing her, her calls, and she's doing follow-ups, and so, I saw this saying the other day that said, everything you want is just on the other side of everything you don't want to do. So, that's me. I don't want to come in and leave them from 9 to 11. I don't want to, door knock. I don't want to call FSBOs and expire. But, it's a system. There's a system that works, and it's proven. And I constantly try to go and reinvent the wheel, but it's always back to that consistency that works, So
get out of your own head. I still, to this day, when I call people, sometimes I'm like, don't answer. Because I'm really good at voicemails. I can leave you a solid voicemail. It sounds like a recording. But then when they answer and I talk with them, I'm like, that wasn't so bad. I'm so annoying. What's my deal? I just have a hang up about it, and I got to stop. I always consistently tell myself, get out of your head about it. Just do it. It's not that bad.
Yeah, that's a constant battle. I feel like probably a ton of agents struggle with is, I mean, even if you're not a procrastinator going into it, you're going to turn into one probably because you're going to have that phone call that you don't want to make, that tough phone call, and you're going to put it off probably because you have other things to do or you just don't want to do it. Or maybe you haven't processed it properly yet, or you don't feel confident going into it yet, maybe. And honestly, you just got to dive in. Just dive in, get it over with, and on the other side, like you said, you usually find yourself thinking back, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah.
You know?
I would say a piece of advice, if you will, don't call your clients at 9 o'clock at night. I don't
No.
care what it's about. There's no such thing as a real estate emergency. If something goes wrong that late, take it in, look at all aspects, look at all of your options, talk to them the next day when you're not emotional, because they're going to be emotional, when you feel that you've been able to assess the situation and really take it in, rather than panic call them when it just happened, it's heightened, because something could change by morning too, and then you've had to make 2 phone calls that are stressful rather than just the one. I know a lot of people that are like, I just need to deal with this. It's like, hold on a second. You're supposed to be calm, collected, keep your thoughts, then approach your clients with, here are our options, this is how I feel, because you can take it in. You've been able to handle it. You've had that information a little bit longer than they have.
For sure. What that makes me think of too is, I mean, when you're calling a client at 8 or 9 at night, that opens the door for them to call you at 8 or 9 at night moving forward.
You teach people how to treat you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's interesting. Let's get into healthy coping mechanisms for handling stress. And I mean, stress, depression, anxiety, really, we could throw all of them in there, but let's focus on stress. What do you guys do for this?
Well, so I'm glad you brought this up because, I think we all have these little tools that we know when we're supposed to pull them out and use them, and yet oftentimes we don't. And I'll start by saying this. You have a 14-year-old boy, right? And I can assume there are times when he shows up in the arena and he is stressed or something's really bothering him. What is your dialogue with him when you recognize that?
So I am so open with him about my own struggles and my own mental health stuff, because it's not something that I, ever talk to my parents about, or my friends really. And so sometimes he'll be like, I'll sense something in him and I'll be like, hey, how are you feeling about this? And he's like, Mom, it's not that serious. I'm not depressed about it. And he'll like kind of joke about it. I'm like, I will never stop checking in because I want to be able to have that conversation, and you feel comfortable using words like, I'm struggling, or I need space, or, I think a huge part of coping is the audible. Being able to say either to yourself or to another person, I'm not in a good place right now. And I'll tell my husband that sometimes. I'm like, hey, just, it's not a good day. Like, go hang out with your friends, go do something else, because I need space and I know where I'm at mentally, and I don't want to put you through that. I need my time and my space to be able to work through that. And I think that's the same with my son, is whether he's hormonal or dealing with something that makes him anxious, whatever the day is, I have to acknowledge, like, he maybe needs some space. And it's hard not to be like a helicopter parent when, we've been so close for so many years, but independence is so important. Talking about your feelings is important, even if you don't want to. This is what I've experienced, and I want to prevent you from feeling like you have no one to talk to.
So, that's great. We recognize it. We bring it to the table, and I'm sure the general message is, hey, I know this seems like a lot right now, but in a month or two, we're going to look back and laugh at this, right? This is a tiny, tiny window in our vast existence on this planet. So, if you're able to love on him in that manner, much in the same way that we're our hardest critics and we're so hard on ourselves, then why can't we not speak to ourselves in that manner? Now, you can't say, and what is your son's name?
Caden.
You can't say to yourself, okay, Caden, this isn't very, so you have to talk to yourself. And when you talk to yourself, you say things as if adult you is talking to a 14 or 15-year-old you and say, hey, this is a small, tiny little window in my vast existence. Well, I will probably look back on this and laugh. I mean, I never thought that we'd be sitting at a table and laughing about that transaction.
Talking about our
Right?
feelings.
But I think recognizing it, bringing it to the table, and just saying, hey, we'll work through this. You're not alone. You got it, and life's going to go on. I think for me, when I'm in that anxious, stressed environment, if I have the capacity to recognize it and just take that pause, because you mentioned step back or take the pause or whatever, that pause to me is priceless, to be able to recognize it. Because at any time in the day, you can say, all right, I'm starting over. We only get one day, but you can restart that day at any moment in your life. Because I'll walk out of here feeling great, and then someone's going to cut me off, and then my day's going to change, but I can reset it right then. And so that's the beauty, and that's one of the biggest tools that I have that I don't use, and I wish I used more often.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys do that, but talking to me as if I was a 15-year-old Nathan, I'll just say, hey, bud, it's okay. We got this. We can do this. This is not at the end of the world. We're going to wake up tomorrow. Let's be fine.
Being there for yourself is so important. I've had a lot of toxic relationships, whether that be a man or my parents or whoever, and I've felt like abandoned or like I'm not loved in the way I need to be loved. And I've been with my partner for 7 years now, but I still am just insecure about that because at the end of the day, I have to be here for me.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband's great, and of course he'll never leave me, and whatever they say, I'm still in such denial that I deserve that.
Yeah.
And that sucks. That's so hard to get through. But yeah, you do have to be here for yourself. And as far as talking to my son, I always have to ask him questions that are open-ended. You don't let him say yes or no.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say, I'm noticing you're kind of anxious. Tell me a little bit about that. And I'll be like, this is just irritating me. I'm like, that's fine. And I'll try to find a story that's relatable or go, it's okay that you feel that way.
Mm-hmm.
To normalize it, to go, it's okay to feel that way, because so many people are like, are you going to freak out? Oh, you're getting emotional. Man up. That pisses me off so much. It's so okay to talk about yourself. And I know a lot of adult men that talk about their feelings, and other men specifically have respect for that. I'm in a group where they tell each other they love each other, and it's awesome. It's not weird. It's not, are you guys gay? It's not derogatory. It's like, I love you.
Yeah.
I love being in that environment.
Yeah.
It's
That should be normalized too.
And you don't have the capacity to have that conversation with your son or with your friends or with your clients or anything, unless you're taking care of it first, right? I mean, because if you're a hot mess and your cup is overflowing, you don't have that. So I know and I know that's a central theme of this whole thing is self-care, but that pause and pulling back and taking care of yourself so that you can be of service to others. I mean, I'm no good to my wife or my kids if my day is, if I haven't had a chance to dump out some of that cup, I don't have room for anything else. So
I struggle with mom guilt a lot because I'm so used to putting my son first that when I've got something else to do, I feel guilty that I'm doing something for me.
Yeah.
And people in my life have to remind me, it's okay that you're doing that.
Yeah.
He doesn't care that you want to go to the tanning salon or whatever it is. He'd rather be playing video games anyways.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to go, well, that's what I need to do for me.
You have to take care of number one, first and
Yes.
foremost.
I love how self-care was the tanning salon.
Mhm.
I'm just thinking,
Hey.
I don't get my nails done or anything. So.
Do you get
That's
vitamin
mine.
D from that?
Yes.
Do you?
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
Actually, it feels really good. It's like some people that go to the gym and then they feel really good afterwards. I go tanning and I feel really good afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've admittedly done it before. I'm not
That's
embarrassed
fine.
about it. I mean, but this is what's kind of embarrassing is the first time I did it was when I was in high school. I was probably 17 or maybe even 16. My buddy talked me into it. He was dating a girl that's mom owned it or something like that. And so anyhow, honestly, I really fully believe that I'm wearing these because of that. Because I didn't wear the
You
goggles.
didn't put the goggles
Nope.
on?
Nope.
Yikes.
cranked it up to an hour. On
Yeah,
just
give me,
staring into
yeah.
the lights.
I'm gonna be red walking out. But no, I've actually thought about doing that again, if even just once a week or something like that. I bought a sun lamp for that reason to get that vitamin D, and I finally started taking it, the supplement. And I don't know if you're supposed to take it on days that it's sunny when you know you're going to be outside and you're getting it naturally. So I don't take it on those days yet. I'm still working through that, but definitely on like a date like today where it's supposed to rain and it's overcast, I'm taking my vitamin D for sure. So I'm gonna have to the tanning beds.
Okay, and then all the people who have ever had skin cancer are going to be like, they did not just promote tanning beds.
I mean, I think there's a safe way to do it, right?
There are,
I mean,
yeah,
you know,
lotion,
you can,
sunscreen.
yeah,
face.
exactly, to get the full effect, and in order to be, safe and get that, yeah, exactly. So you're not having to wear glasses later on in life like me. So we've talked about a lot of really good stuff today. Your story, it's just absolutely fascinating and incredible to me.
Which is so normal because it's just my life.
Yeah.
When I tell people things that I've been through, they're like, oh. And I'm like, wait, what? Oh.
Yeah.
Because
You
I'm
haven't been
just
through
used
this?
to what it is. Yeah. It's so like mundane to me.
It's like we internally normalize.
Yeah.
And that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
I don't think.
No.
Normalizing is a good thing, but internally, no. Like it's got to be external.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, your story is just awesome. We touched on therapy a little bit, psychiatry, depression and anxiety with people, and how to read them and how to properly comfort them and invite them into your space, or invite them into whenever they're ready, to process that with you if that's what they want to do, and then also healthy coping mechanisms for handling stress. Was a great topic, and last but not least, we got to talk about that fun deal you guys had. So
Tanning beds.
and tanning
And
beds.
tanning
We threw in
beds.
some tanning beds. Yeah. So this is really good stuff. I think that it'll be very highly useful for those of you that are listening in today. Leave us some feedback. Love to hear your feedback, and maybe even some topic suggestions, stuff like that. Definitely open to a lot of ideas. We've got quite a few on hand still that we're going to tackle that I think will be extremely useful for everyone listening to this, but definitely open to all of your suggestions. So please reach out. Ashley, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you were great. I'm excited to see how this is received. And I think
Just tell your story. Just share with others.
Yeah.
It's important.
yeah, so important. So important. Did you guys get that? All right. Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you're struggling with mental health, or you're an agent out there who maybe struggles daily with something within, internally within your mind, this podcast is for you. And honestly, it's for all of you, truthfully. The things that we'll be talking about and addressing within it are going to help you more than you truly know. So I really hope that you join us on this journey, because it will be one with a lot of fun people. Please tune in, and please reach out also. If you have any questions, or if you need anything, just reach out to myself or Nathan. All right? Thanks, guys.